I had just moved into a new apartment, a cheap old building tucked away in a quiet part of the city. The rent was incredibly low, and I didn't mind the old walls or the creaking floors. It seemed like the kind of place where nothing ever happened, just a spot for someone like me to stay while figuring things out. But the strange things started almost immediately. At first, it was just small oddities. The lights flickered, and I'd hear the faint sound of doors creaking open by themselves. At first, I brushed it off. The building was old, and old buildings made strange sounds. But then it started happening more often, always when I was alone. The taps. Quiet at first, just a single tap on the wall. Then, the next night, it was more insistent, a rhythmic tapping echoing through the apartment. I told myself it was the pipes. It had to be. I had no other explanation. But one night, it woke me up. It was 3 a.m., and the sound was louder, more pronounced. Tap, tap, tap. It came from inside the walls, echoing around me. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was in the room with me, waiting. Eventually, I got up and checked the apartment. Nothing. Empty. But the sound continued. Faint, like it was coming from beneath the floorboards. The next day, I found myself dreading the evening. The taps had stopped, but the silence felt heavier somehow. The apartment seemed to be pressing in on me, and the thought of the empty closet made my skin crawl. I couldn't explain why, but it felt like something was hidden there, something that didn't belong. Still, I tried to ignore it. There were no ghosts, no spirits, just an old building with creaky walls. At least, that's what I told myself. But one night, the taps came again. Only this time, they weren't coming from the walls. They were coming from the closet. My heart started to race. I knew there was nothing in the closet, just my clothes, the old boxes from my move. But as I stood there in front of it, the sound continued, like something was trying to get out. I couldn't help myself. I opened the door. At first, there was nothing out of the ordinary, just clothes. But then I saw it. A small wooden box tucked away at the back, partially hidden behind a pile of old jackets. I had never seen it before. My curiosity pushed me to open it. Inside were several old, yellowed photographs. They were of a man I didn't recognize standing in front of an unfamiliar house. He was smiling, but his eyes, they didn't look right. They were dark, hollow, as though he wasn't really there at all. I felt an overwhelming chill sweep through me, and the air in the room seemed to thicken, heavier, as though something was watching me. The photographs were unsettling. I quickly shoved the box back into the corner, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Who was this man? Why did I feel like I knew him? The tapping stopped for a while after that. Days passed without incident, but the unease lingered. I couldn't get rid of the feeling that something was just behind me, waiting for me to turn around. One evening, I decided to speak to the landlord, just to put my mind at ease. I asked him if there had ever been anything strange about the building, any strange occurrences or odd tenants. He gave me a strange look, as if he knew something I didn't. "Nothing you need to worry about," he said, but his voice trembled slightly. He started to walk away, but then he stopped and turned back to me. "Just make sure you keep that closet locked, okay?" His tone was serious, and something about it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I didn't think much of it at the time. I told myself I was just being paranoid. But that night, everything changed. The tapping started again, but this time it was different. It wasn't soft or subtle. It was fast, frantic, like someone was desperate to be heard. The sound came from the closet, and it wouldn't stop. My heart was pounding in my chest as I stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the closet. I knew I had to open it, but I didn't want to. I had to. When I opened the door, the box was there again. But this time, something was different. The photographs were gone. In their place was a single note, hastily written in jagged handwriting. "You're not alone. He's always been here." I felt the blood drain from my face. My head was spinning. The man in the photographs? I had no idea who he was, but now I felt a deep, bone-chilling certainty that I knew him. Somehow, in some way, he had always been there. That night, the tapping became deafening. It wasn't just the closet now. It was coming from every direction, from the walls, from the floor, from inside my head. I ran out of the apartment, heart racing, but the moment I stepped into the hallway, I heard it, the scraping sound. Something was scraping against the doorframe, slow, deliberate, like nails on wood. It was right outside my apartment. I couldn't see it, but I felt it. Whatever was making that sound was right there, just out of sight. I stood there, paralyzed, my back pressed against the door, listening to the scraping, waiting for it to stop. But it didn't. It just continued, slowly moving toward me, until the sound was so close that I could feel the vibrations in my chest. And then it stopped, dead silent. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The air was thick with dread, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw the man's face, his hollow eyes, his twisted smile. It wasn't until morning that I dared to open the door again, but when I did, there was nothing. No sign of anything out of the ordinary. Just the usual empty hallway. But now I knew something was in the building, something that had always been there. And every time I closed my eyes, I could hear the faint tapping, like a distant whispering, reminding me that it was still waiting. It hasn't stopped. Every night I hear it getting closer. And sometimes, just as I begin to fall asleep, I see him, standing in the doorway, smiling that same twisted smile. I don't know what he wants, but I know one thing for sure. He's not going to stop until he gets it.